Welcome to the deep dive. You know that feeling you sometimes get? That sense that someone isn't quite showing their true self?
Mhm.
Oh, that gut instinct, it's often not magic. It's usually psychology, right? Subtle cues.
Exactly. And today we're diving into that, specifically through a Machiavellian lens.
Machiavellian psychology sounds a bit intense.
Well, yeah, it can sound that way. But we're not here to teach manipulation. It's more about understanding the insights of Niccolò Machiavelli.
Mm.
See, centuries ago, he just observed people, how they actually are often self-interested, ambitious, driven by power dynamics.
So he didn't invent these tactics.
Not at all. He just wrote down what he saw. And our mission really is to unpack some of his core observations, translate them into, let's say, psychological tactics you can use.
To read people more clearly.
Precisely, to help you read people like an open book, but, without any tarot cards or mind-reading tricks involved.
Okay, I like that. So this isn't about becoming cynical or psychic. It's about sharpening your observation skills, understanding those subtle human signals we often miss. Right.
We want to help you get a quicker, maybe deeper grasp of human nature. You might even have some aha moments about people you see every day.
That's the goal. Ready to jump in?
Let's do it. Where do we start?
Okay, well, a fundamental idea Machiavelli understood is that people constantly leak clues about what's going on inside, subconsciously, usually. So our first tactic for spotting these clues is watch what they admire.
Oh, that's interesting. I've always found this one fascinating. Like, what someone praises tells you more about them some way.
Exactly. How does that tie into Machiavelli?
Well, it's a direct window, isn't it, into their values, their aspirations, what they hold up as good or effective.
So if someone's always talking about, say, ruthless CEOs or maybe politicians known for being power hungry.
Machiavelli would say, pay attention. That's not just casual chat. It often signals a kind of hidden desire to either be like that or at least they approve of those methods.
Right. It shows how they might act if they had the power, or what they genuinely think works in the world, maybe regardless of the ethics involved. Yeah, it's a real peek into their internal compass. And speaking of what gets revealed, sometimes it's not admiration, but just their immediate reaction,
Mhm.
which brings us to the next insight. Notice their first instinct.
Ah, yes. This is classic Machiavelli territory. Observing human impulsivity. When you put someone under just a little unexpected pressure, maybe ask for a quick decision or a small favor right out of the blue.
Like, hey, can you help me move next weekend, sort of thing.
Exactly like that. Their very first unguarded response, it's often the most honest one. It's like it bypasses their mental filter for a split second.
So that quick wince or the sigh, or even just a hesitant, sure, before they catch themselves.
That's the data point. That initial reaction often holds more truth than the polished answer that comes right after. It's raw.
Those microseconds really count. Okay, so the first instinct is unfiltered. Building on that, what about when things go wrong? How do people handle blame?
That leads us right to the next point. Pay attention to who they blame.
Oh, this is a big one.
It really is.
Yeah.
Machiavellian thinkers get this fundamental truth. People often project their own issues, or maybe their lack of accountability, onto others. So if someone consistently blames everyone else, their coworkers, their boss, their ex, the system, for every little setback,
That's a red flag.
a significant one. Now look, sometimes blame is legitimate, of course, but Machiavelli would tell us to look for the pattern. Does this person always point the finger outwards?
Even for small things.
Especially then sometimes. That consistent refusal to look inward, to acknowledge their own part, it says a lot about their character. And maybe, just maybe, it hints that you might end up on their blame list eventually. It shows a resistance to self-reflection.
It's like they're crafting a story where they're never the bad guy. That self-protection is very telling. Okay, moving from blame. What about how people treat others, especially those they don't need anything from?
Excellent point. That brings us to watch how they treat powerless people.
The classic waiter test.
Exactly. It's classic because it's often true. How someone interacts with service staff, drivers, cleaners, anyone they might see as having less social power or influence, that's incredibly revealing
Why is that so telling, do you think?
because the mask slips. They often believe their actions in those situations don't count or won't have repercussions for them personally. So you're not seeing a performance.
You're seeing them?
You're seeing their baseline level of respect or lack of it for other human beings. It's less about strategy and more about their inherent character.
Yeah, it truly is a litmus test, isn't it? Who are you when you think no one important is watching?
Precisely. Now let's shift to another powerful, often subconscious reveal. Emotions, specifically. See what makes them jealous.
Ah, jealousy. The green-eyed monster reveals much.
It really does. It exposes deep-seated desires, sure, but also insecurities. If someone gets visibly annoyed or dismissive, or maybe subtly tries to undermine someone else who's achieved success, especially in an area they care about,
That's the signal.
that's a huge signal.
Hmm.
It often means they want that success, that recognition, maybe that spotlight, but perhaps they feel they can't get it themselves or haven't put in the work.
So it's not just envy, it's also about what they feel is missing in themselves.
Exactly. It's a very raw emotion, jealousy. It betrays their true ambitions and often that underlying sense of inadequacy or lack.
That's subtle, but really insightful. Okay, moving on. What about gauging someone's actual knowledge versus just sounding knowledgeable?
Good question. This leads to a simple but effective tactic. Ask them to explain something simple.
Like basic stuff in their own field.
Yeah. Or even just why they hold a common belief. Ask them to break down a basic concept they should know. Now, if they get defensive or they ramble or use a ton of jargon to kind of obscure things,
Or just can't really articulate it clearly.
right, that often indicates they're not as confident or knowledgeable as they project. It's a low-stakes way to gently probe their intellectual honesty and actual depth of understanding.
That's a smart way to peel back the layer, see if there's real substance there. Okay, for our final tactic. You mentioned fleeting signals earlier.
Yes, perhaps the most fleeting, but arguably the most honest ones. Watch the microexpressions.
Okay, this requires paying close attention.
It really does. Microexpressions, these are tiny, involuntary muscle movements in the face. They last less than half a second.
And they're hard to fake.
Incredibly hard to suppress consciously because they bypass our usual control filters. They're linked directly to emotion. So when you bring up something potentially sensitive, could be money, success, failure, a tricky subject, watch their face very closely right in that moment.
What are we looking for?
That half-second flicker, a flash of anger, maybe surprise, disgust, real joy, fear, whatever it is, it can tell you more about their genuine feeling on the topic than their words might.
Wow. They're like these little emotional leaks.
Exactly. An unadulterated glimpse into their inner state before they can compose themselves.
It's amazing how once you start looking for these things, these patterns, you really do begin to see them.
You're not just listening anymore.
Yeah.
You're kind of understanding the unspoken script people are following.
And here's the thing about Machiavelli. He often gets this really bad rap, doesn't he?
Yeah. Cold, ruthless, manipulative.
Right. The puppet master pulling strings. But what if? What if he was just being brutally honest? Like I said earlier, he didn't invent ambition or self-interest or power plays. He just observed them meticulously. He documented how people actually behave, not how we think they should behave.
So his work is like an unfiltered mirror.
A very stark, unfiltered mirror held up to human nature, yeah.
Because ultimately, whether it's your boss or someone you've just met, or even in a tough negotiation, people leak truth.
Humans leak truth. That's a great way to put it.
Yeah.
We just need to learn where to look and how to interpret what we see. We're broadcasting information constantly, often without even realizing it.
Right.
And understanding these tactics, it isn't about becoming manipulative yourself. Far from it. It's really about protecting yourself, recognizing potential red flags early on, making smarter decisions too, right? By understanding what might be motivating someone.
Exactly. And just generally navigating your interactions with a bit more clarity, seeing people more fully, rather than just accepting the surface level.
So here's a thought for everyone listening. Next time you're in a meeting, or maybe at a family dinner, or even just scrolling online, try to consciously use just one of these ideas. Maybe watch who gets blamed, or notice someone's first instinct.
See what patterns emerge.
Yeah, you'll probably be surprised. You start seeing things you hadn't noticed before. And look, knowing people better, understanding these dynamics, it doesn't make you cold.
No, not at all.
It makes you sharp, perceptive, and ultimately just more prepared.
Well said. The world's a stage, after all.
Might as well learn how to read the script.